everyone, welcome to today's video and to the latest installment of Spicy Licks. If you're new to my channel, basically this is a little series I do here where I teach you a lick that I've come up with, teach you it note for note so that you can play it at home, and then after that I talk a bit about the theory behind the lick, why it sounds the way it does and why it works. So that you can take that information and use it and apply it to your own playing to come up with licks and sounds of your own. So today's lick is a sort of traditional blues lick that has a sort of jazzy hip feel to it as well. And as I said, I'm going to teach you this lick note for note so you can play it at home. And if you're not really interested in hearing about the theory behind it, then you don't have to continue watching the video. But if you do, stick around because I'll talk about why it works and how you can use the information that I'm going to tell you to apply it to your own playing. So here is the lick played to speed. Okay, and here is the lick once again, but this time slowed down. And if you like, you can pause the video and take a look at the tab and play along. Okay, so let's go through that together. Start at fret 3 on the G string, and then hammer on to 4, and then go 3, 5 on the B string. So then we have this phrase. So start on fret 6 on the B string. So you pick that note, then pick fret 5, then pull off to 3, and slide down to fret 2. So that's pick 6, pick 5, pull off to 3, slide down to 2, and then we go to finish that phrase. So that's just 5, 3 on the B string. And the very end of the lick is very similar to the start. The only difference is you end on a G note. So you go. So here's that entire lick once again. 3, hammer onto 4. 3, 5 on the B string. 6, 5, pull off to 3, slide down to 2. 5, 3, and then end it like this. 3, 4 on the G, 3, 5 on the B, and 3 on the high E string. Okay, so now that you know it note for note, I'm going to talk a bit about why this lick sounds cool and why it works. So it's played over a blues shuffle in G. And if you don't know, a 12-bar blues contains 3 chords. We have the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. So the 1 chord is G7, the 4 chord is C7. I realize that's confusing when I'm doing this. Okay, the 1 chord is G7, the 4 chord is C7, and the 5 chord is D7. G7, C7, D7. Those are the 3 chords you're working with on a blues. So it's not functional harmony of the major scale. These are blues changes, so all chords are dominant 7th chords. This lick is played over the 1 chord, over the G7. So off the top of your heads, think to yourself, what scales could I play over a G7 chord? Perhaps the most obvious one would be the G blues scale, since we're playing over a blues progression. So the G blues scale looks and sounds like this. Hopefully you're already familiar with that scale. If you're not, I suggest going and watching the Stevie Ray Vaughan lesson that I just uploaded a couple of days ago. I talk a bit about the G blues scale in that video, but hopefully you are already familiar with it. And what other scales could we use to play over a G dominant 7th chord? Well, so far we've got the G blues scale. We could also play the G Mixolydian scale. mode. If you don't know what mixolydian is, don't freak out. I'm going to talk about it in very simple terms so that even if you're not comfortable with general music theory, you'll be able to follow along and understand what I'm talking about to some degree. So the mixolydian scale is the fifth mode of the major scale. Again, don't freak out. I'm not going to go too deep into theory right now, but hopefully you watching this, hopefully you know what the major scale sounds like. Now, you might not know the exact intervals of the major scale, but you probably know what it sounds like. If you don't know the intervals, here they are. So you've got root, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh. Then you're back to the root, okay? So the major scale, the last scale degree of the major scale, the last interval, is a major seventh, okay? Now, the mixolydian scale has one note that is different. There's one note that makes a difference between the major scale and the mixolydian scale, sorry. And that is the seventh degree of the mixolydian scale. So in the major scale, you have the major seventh, which is found one fret or one semitone lower than the root note. So here's the note G. One fret lower than that is the major seventh. Mixolydian has a minor seventh interval, not a major seventh interval. It has a minor seventh interval, which, as you might have guessed, is one fret lower than the major seventh interval. Okay, so that's note F in the key of G. So the minor seventh interval is 2 frets below the root note, or 2 semitones, or a tone lower than the root note. So here's the root G, and the minor seventh is 2 frets below that. So I'm going to play the major scale now. Now here's the mixolydian scale. Listen to the difference. Okay, major, mixolydian. So there's just one note that's different there. That is the 7th degree. So in major scale, we've got major 7th. Mixolydian, we've got minor 7th. In case you couldn't tell, I know I've said it like 1,000 times already now, but hopefully you understand the difference now. So as far as our scale choices go, we know we have the G blues scale and the G mixolydian scale. Now, combining those two scales gives you a really nice palette of colors meaning notes, to choose from when you're improvising over a blues progression. So when I'm improvising over a blues, I don't think to myself, okay, I'm going to play one lick using the G blues scale, and then I'm going to play something in mixolydian. I like to think of them as this combination of notes, this palette of colors, as I mentioned earlier, that I can pick and choose from. And I think that this lick in particular does a really good job of highlighting the sort of musical phrases that you can come up with when you combine two scales like the G blues scale and the G mixolydian scale. So let's get into all of that. The lick starts like this. That first note there is a minor third interval, which is found in the G blues scale. Root, minor third. So it's not found in the mixolydian scale, but it is found in the G blues scale. Now the mixolydian scale has a major third interval, which is the second note in that lick. Then we have the fifth, which is the note D, and that's common to both scales. So the perfect fifth appears in both the G blues scale and the G mixolydian scale. So there's nothing unique about that note. But then we move up to the major sixth, which is the note E, and that is unique to the mixolydian scale, okay? So that first part of that lick features notes from the minor pentatonic, or the blues scale rather, and the mixolydian. It's got minor third from the blues scale, major third from mixolydian, fifth, which appears in both, and the major sixth, which appears in the mixolydian scale. And this next part of the lick, this next phrase in particular, is the part of the lick which to me gives it this sort of hip jazzy feel, and it kind of breaks out of the more traditional blues flavoring of the rest of the lick, if that makes sense. So the phrase goes like this. So what is happening there is I'm playing two notes that are common to both scales, and I'm playing one note that is unique to the Mixolydian scale and one note that is unique to the G blues scale. Okay, so let's look at that. You start on the minor seventh, which appears in both the G blues scale and it also appears in the G Mixolydian scale. So it's common to both scales. Then we go to the major sixth, which, as already mentioned, is unique to the Mixolydian scale. Then we move down to the fifth, which is common to both scales. And then we move down to the flat five, which is unique to the blues scale. So we've got minor seventh, which is common to both the Mixolydian and the blues scale. Major sixth, unique to the Mixolydian. Fifth, common to blues scale and the Mixolydian. And then flat five, unique to the blues scale. So what that is just an even combination of unique notes from Mixolydian and the G blues scale, as well as notes that are common to both scales. It's that even distribution of notes that are unique to each scale and notes that are common to both scales that makes that phrase in particular sound so cool and hip, if you will. Now, I'll just say really quickly that for anyone who maybe didn't understand what I was talking about earlier when I said things like minor third, major sixth, all those sort of things, those are called intervals, and that's a basic music theory concept that is really useful to know. So I maybe mentioned this earlier on in the video, but I have a bunch of free content on my YouTube channel, obviously. Some of it talks about intervals, but if you want a really comprehensive set of lessons on things like intervals and other basic music theory concepts that you can actually use and apply in your guitar playing, then please do check the link in the description below, because I have 50% off coupons for my online guitar course, Bulletproof Guitar Player, which, as already mentioned, goes over basic music theory concepts that you can actually apply to your guitar playing to become a better player. So check that out if you are interested. Now, to finish up this lesson, I just want to make you aware of the fact that obviously I was playing that lick in the first position of the G blues scale. And you can, of course, apply that to other positions of the G blues scale as well. So what's cool about this is that you don't necessarily have to know the Mixolydian scale in every position all over the neck to be able to transfer this to other areas of the neck. If you are comfortable with the blues scale, however, then you should find this fairly easy to do. So what you need to know to be able to transfer this to other areas of the neck is where the minor seventh interval is in each position of the blues scale. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, the minor seventh is 2 frets below the root note. So there's the root note, G, 2 frets below it is F. Okay, so that's in position 1. So as long as you know every position of the G blues scale, and again, that's something that is covered in my guitar theory course, as long as you know every position of the blues scale all over the neck and you can see the root notes in each position, you should have no trouble at all being able to find the minor seventh interval and play that lick in different positions. For example, here it is in position 3. I know that that's F, that's the minor seventh, so I can go. How about position 4? Position 5. Back to position 1, an octave higher. Position 2. You get the idea. So basically, get comfortable with all positions of the blues scale or the minor pentatonic scale. Get comfortable identifying the root notes in each position, because that's very important. And then from there, if you know where the root notes are, you can just think to yourself, okay, 2 frets below the root note, that's the minor 7th. That's my starting point for the lick. Okay guys, that does it for today's video. Please let me know if you enjoyed this video in particular, because this is actually the first video I've ever made without a script. So usually what I would do for every other lesson on my channel is I would print out a script of exactly what I was going to say to the camera, print that off, stick it on my tripod and read directly off of that and repeat it back to the camera. And I got a lot of comments in the past few months from people saying that they really like my lesson content, but that I kind of come off as like I don't have much of a personality and I seem a bit bored, which is definitely not the case. I love making these videos, but I think that when I'm reading from a script, it does obviously feel scripted and like I'm not really enjoying myself when I'm making these videos. So I thought today I might as well just throw myself in the deep end and try and do it unscripted. So hopefully the lesson came out okay. If it did, please let me know. If there's bits of it I could have improved, please also let me know. I'm interested to hear what you think. And as always, if you have suggestions for future videos, please leave a comment below and I'll check out your suggestions and take them on board. Hope you all have a good week and I will see you soon. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and click subscribe for more. See you guys later.